Today we're going to use fractions in simplest form. A fraction is in simplest form when it represents as few equal parts of the whole as possible. So in this case, if we look at the fraction 4/8, we have 4 out of 8. But that's there's a lot of separate parts there. So we can actually minimize this by turning it into its simplest form of 1/2 over here. Then we only have one part, which would be the fewer of 4 out of 2 rather than 4 out of 8. So, here we go. The first example we're going to do is we're going to use division. We can use division by dividing the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, whatever they will divide into equally in order to take it down. Basically, we're making equivalent fractions that are smaller numbers. So, we're going to take this and we are going to take our 2/8 and we're going to divide it by 2. Because 2 can be divided by 2 evenly and 8 can be divided by 2. So we're going to take our 2 and our 8, we're going to divide it by 2, divide it by 2. Whatever we do to the numerator, we must do to the denominator also. So we're going to divide both of these by 2, and let's see what we get here. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our simplest form in this case would be 1/4. Now, the only other number that could divide equally into these would be 1. And that would still give us 1/4. So this would be our lowest form or our simplest form. So we're going to look over here. Now we have an 8 and a 12. So here we're going to divide again. We can divide it by whatever we would like. So I'm going to write our fraction here of 8/12. And we're going to divide this by something. Now, if I don't know of anything else, I do know 2. So I could use 2. And divide by 2. 8 divided by 2 is going to give me a 4. And 12 divided by 2 is going to give me a 6. So that gives me 4/6. However, both of these are even, so we can divide those by 2 again. So we're going to extend this out. We're going to divide this by 2. Divide that by 2. We are then going to get a 2/3. And since 2 and 3 can't be divided, 2 can be divided by 2, but 3 can't be divided by 2 evenly. So because neither one of those can be divided by anything but 1, we are done, and this is in our simplest form. So, that is how we use division. Now we have one option, and that is using the greatest common factor. So, in this case, we need to factor our fraction. Our fraction here is 6/10. So we're going to factor it out, 6 and 10 out. Factors are the things that can be multiplied together to get 6 or 10. In an equation, in a multiplication equation, it is our factor times a factor, which equals our product. In this case, our product represents a 10 and a 6. We're looking for these factors. So, our first factor here, we're going to write these in. 6, our first factor is going to be 1. Our first factor is always 1. And in this case, it's going to be 1 and 6. In this case, it's going to be 1 and 10. Now, 6 and 10 are both even, so we know that 2 is going to be a factor. So in 2 times 3 equals 6, and 2 times 5 equals 10. Now what this does for us is our greatest common factor here. We've listed our factors. Our greatest common factor here is this 2 and this 2. So because we have our 2's there, I'm going to circle those. We are going to divide by 2. So now we're going to take our fraction from up above, 6/10. We divide it by 2, and we automatically will get our simplest form. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Neither one of those can be divided equally by anything but 1, so 3/5 becomes our answer. And that is how we use common factors, or the greatest common factor, to divide a fraction in order to find the simplest form. I would actually recommend using this way more than division, just because there's a lot less steps and it's easier to know exactly what to divide it by to get your simplest form. And that is how we find the simplest form.